What up, gang? This video is for one of my followers, Brian, who is out of Phoenix, Arizona. He rides an Aprilia and also a Kawasaki ZX-10R. I met him in one of the forums and he says, hey man, I want a third bike, but I'm really looking hard at the R1 and also the CBR 1000RR. He goes, I watched the videos that you had on the CBR, and I know it wasn't very favorable, but maybe you can kind of go in a little more depth as to why you feel the way that you do. So I thought, hey, you know what, that'd be a great idea. Just so you guys know, this bike is sold. I just sold it. So they're coming to pick it up within the next several days in order for them to enjoy this bike. It only has 430 miles on it, and I let it go for 15 grand and they bought it. So somebody that's really good with Hondas, and they said they could probably end up fixing the whole situation that was going on with it. But let's talk about this for a second. All right, this bike, this particular bike, the CBR 1000RR, just to start, it's going to be about anywhere from $16,000 to $17,000, depending where you purchase your bike. Actually, sorry about that. $17,000 to $18,000, depending which state you purchase your bike in, and also the taxes on it. One thing that allured me to this bike was my friend who actually has one of these. He has a 2019 CBR 1000RR and hasn't had really any problems with it. So he says, hey man, I want to let you know the CBR 1000RR is an actual sleeper, and you'd be remiss if you didn't have it at least in your arsenal for a little bit to ride it and to experience it for yourself. Now, when he basically challenged me to go ahead and purchase it, one came up here at the dealership. I ended up pretty much picking it up, and when I first got it, I was actually really impressed with it. I was like, huh, this looks pretty cool. I go, it does feel small. One thing you're going to notice, Brian, is that when you throw your leg over a CBR 1000RR, it does not feel like a leader bike. First and foremost, anybody who rides R1s or Kawasaki's will tell you the same exact thing. It feels like a 600. Okay, it even acts like a 600. It's very flickable. I'm gonna give you that for handling. It's a very flickable bike because it's just such a compact geometry. The triangle on this bike is so much tighter than you'll see on an R1 or even on a ZX-10R. But if you're looking for that kind of flickability feeling, that's what it feels like. Okay, now here's the thing. I Brend tuned this particular bike. All right, when we put it on the dyno, this is stock. This thing down at 156 as a leader bike, 156 horsepower. My Aprilia, you call it, that I had, my RS600, or my RS660, I should say, had more horsepower than this bike basically out of the box. So that was surprising to me. And then by the time that we finished off the Brend tune and everything too, top wheel, rear wheel horsepower on this one was 172. That was all we could squeeze out of it. I did end up changing the pipe. I'm going to tell you something though, okay? This bike comes obviously with a standard can, more of an extended can. It did sound very good when I got it. I probably could have gotten away with just tuning it and never ever changing the pipe. But obviously, me just being me, I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and just give me a freaking quarter pipe and then put this thing on there just for sound, because I like the way these things sound. And again, you call it, I think that you could have kept the stock can, saved yourself, $900 and some labor time, and you would have been completely fine with that, Bri. But I do have a Yoshi on here. It's an Alpha. It sounds really good. But again, this bike is a lot different than anything else that I pretty much have ridden consistently. One of the things that you'll notice about this bike is that it just looks really plasticky. Fairings, obviously are more towards the front, doesn't cover a whole lot of that. It's very it sounds like just, I don't know, cheap, but I don't know where else to put it. I did put on the actual, the grips and everything too. You can see even the tank side, it's all plastic. It's not metal. So it kind of flexes. I did end up taking off the rear passenger seat and put the cowl, the racing cowl on there, because nobody rides in the back of my bikes. And the only thing that I did for this bike too is I put my rear ends on this one here. I ended up not putting any frame sliders on here because for some strange reason you have to cut the actual plastic on there to make it happen. And then we also put some Pro Link extenders on this side here for the rear. This chain has already been stretched because we actually had a little bit of slack that was in there. But you can see also too that the wheels themselves are all it's a different tire as well. So you gotta look, it's a 190/50 R17 on that one, and the R1 is a 190/55 R17. So it's just a little bit smaller. It's 50 versus a 55. It just feels tiny. Like I said, it feels like a 600, which is neither here nor there. If you like that smaller feel, great. You're gonna get on this bike here Takiko brakes. Again, not bad. The bike stops like really well. We did make adjustments. I had to, one thing that you're gonna also have to be cognizant of, this bike does not come with a quick shifter. I installed this one. I bought this from Yamaha OEM. Ran me about 550 bucks. You can see we put it in there and installed it. Took about an hour and a half to install it. Had to initiate it in the system on the actual computer here. You have to initialize it, and then it works. And then when you tune it, you also tune the actual quick shifter. This quick shifter here, I'll be frank with you, is a lot smoother than the ZX-10R, which surprised me. So good job, Honda. You did a good job on your shifter. I did take off the ugly old freaking license plate thing that was way out here. Put a new Rage tail tidy on there, which works great. But that's the CBR 1000 RR in a nutshell, bud. It's definitely the slowest bike I have in my stable. And you guys know I have a lot of bikes, and but it's definitely not the snappiest bike that I have ever ridden. So Brian, that's the Honda CBR 1000 RR. R1. Brother, if you live in Phoenix, I'm almost positive a ton of people ride R1s out there. They've got to. R1s are kind of a West Coast bike. And I'll tell you, this bike here, you guys have heard me talk about it. I'm never going to say anything bad about an R1 because it just does what it does. I ended up obviously taking off the nasty rear end on this side here. Put the tail tidy on there. Obviously piped it with an Alpha, a Yoshimura Alpha on that one there. Put on obviously the tech spec grips. It has its sliders. It has all the stuff that basically you need for track protection on there. And then the only thing that I did do is I ended up changing the velocity stacks in this particular bike. Sorry guys, there's a lot of trucks going by here because of the construction. But yes, I put some velocity stacks. This does have a Sprint air filter, and this bike was actually tuned by KWS in Charleston, South Carolina, and they did a really, really good job. Mike down there, who is the lead engine builder mechanic down there, took his time when he did this flash for me, and I will never ever say one thing bad about KWS. They're the most legit shop out there when it comes to customization. But this bike screams. Rear wheel horsepower on this one, after everything was said and done, this one here is a 201. So this bike will run you 18,000 again. They're in the same price range, bud. You call that that you're looking at. I will tell you this though too. So from a sound standpoint, this one sounded way better stock than with even the modified can. And an R1, when you get it stock, you can't even hear it on. It's so quiet. And a lot of it has to do too with the way that the actual engine is designed these days. It's just a quieter engine. But that's basically what I would say for sound out of the box. With the modifications now, this bike is super loud. So I obviously put a pipe on it if I were you. Did also do a new Rage tail tidy on there, and have done some modifications also to the bike. You can see where we had the sealant and everything too. We were able to open up a little bit of that when we did the engine work at KWS. Secondarily to your ECU here is going to be right here on the side. It's really easy to get to if you're going to flash it. One thing about the Honda, you have to take off and disassemble the entire tank to get to it. The ECU sits in here. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. Chris Moore from More Mafia makes it look so easy when he's pulling it all off. He's like, oh, 2 screws here, 1 screw there. I was like, dude, I'm gonna fucking crack this thing, you know, with the way it is, because this is all plastic. The tank is metal, it's underneath there. So again, this whole freaking bike's plastic, which just doesn't bode a lot of quality, you know, compared to where you get like, you know, all this stuff here. But again, rideability feels a lot like a 600. This one feels like a true leader bike. And that's basically what it's gonna be. I will go ahead and start this so you guys can hear a cold start on this one, bud. I know that's a lot of things where people want to hear it. The screen on this one here too is pretty freaking old. It's the same one they've had forever. So there's nothing really special about any of this stuff here. But let me go ahead and start it for you real quick. Cold start. That's for the CBR 1000 RR. It pushes a lot of air. There's a lot of air coming out of here. You can feel it. You can feel it super strong. Even standing as far back as I am, it's coming out that way. And then you have your R1. Cold start again. Alpha on this one. A lot of air being pushed on this one too. Bigger tire on this one. Smaller tire on this one. I'll give it a little rev. Ryan, can you hear that? Pretty loud, right? This one I don't think is warmed up just yet. Oh wait. The Honda gets hot like really fast. That's one thing that you're gonna notice too. This thing, it heats up really quick. I'm not sure if this is the way the engine's cooled, but it takes a while for mine to heat up because the fan temps were turned on. We lowered them when we tuned it at KWS, so it takes a while for it to warm up. It's only at 136, so I'm gonna wait for a second before I rev it. One thing I'll give the Honda, you can see it coming down the road because it's red, but I'm not opposed to the actual blue for the Yamaha. I think the blue is super sexy. Plus, it's one of my favorite colors. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I do love blue. And as you can see, one thing that's really cool is with the Yamaha, you can still use a quad lock on here, which is very convenient. Whereas here, you can't really do much because when you take this off, the hole is too big, and so you'll actually lose your nut inside there. So I just want to let you know that's one of the caveats with Honda. The quad locks don't work on them. And the ones that you see in videos where they have a quad lock on here, it's jerry-rigged to this portion of the deal, and they end up getting a clamp with a ball, and they basically put the thing on there versus in the stem. That's the one big difference on that side there. Okay, let me get a rev on this one here so you can hear it, Brian. Different sound, right? It's more of a growl. Fire. Anyway, hopefully it helps you, bud. Gives you a little bit of more information to make an educated decision for yourself. Again, not so much a fan of the CBR 1000 RR. It's probably the least powerful bike I've ever ridden. I love the R1. I don't think you can really go wrong with this. Not to mention too, resale value on these bikes is amazing. The Hondas, they don't tend to hold their value very much, which is weird because if you buy a car from a Honda, it's usually really, really great, but bike-wise, not so good. But I think it's because people discovered that it's just not that great of a bike, plain and simple. So anyway, brother, hopefully that helps you. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. If you guys have any questions, have any requests for other reviews on the bikes that I do have, just let me know. I'll do my best to go ahead and get that done for you. And the good news is, you know, I do answer back all the comments and everything too, but if you guys do have any questions, please comment below. I appreciate all the support, guys. You guys know we just started this channel not too long ago. It's already up to like 1,200 some odd followers. Would love to get to 5,000 here shortly and hopefully up to 100,000 by the end of the year. But other than that, guys, appreciate you. If there's any other questions, please comment below and I will take care of those questions for you. But have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. CK out.